The Magicians Podcast is brought to you in proud association with the Magic Circle, Alakazam Magic and Gigio.
And he's banned for life, but those are the sort of situations you've got to deal with, and it's no good pussyfooting around.
Come on. Yeah. Hey, yo, it's my life, my time, my rights, my rhymes, my grind, my struggle, hustle, sweat in my blood too. I'm ready to smell fear, I smell a lot. My competitors fled scared, cause they smelled I was hot. I want it all, excess, the sex, much success, stress us. I want it all, no less, so come on.
It genuinely feels like Christmas because it's Blackpool Magic Weekend. Hello my friends, welcome to the Magicians Podcast. I am Richard Young. So before we get to this week's interview, let's just do a quick checklist for you, shall we? Have you booked a B&B? Have you got some cash for the dealer's hall? Have you had lots of sleep this week? Because you're not going to be getting any this weekend. Because I'm assuming, of course, that you are either on your way to now or about to leave for the Blackpool Magic Convention, the world's biggest magic convention. It's happening this weekend in Blackpool. You shouldn't be doing gigs, okay? Don't do gigs on Blackpool Magic Weekend. If you're doing them this year, I can forgive you. Next year, no gigs, okay? You should be at the world's biggest magic party happening in your backyard. It's only about, a 9 or 10 hour drive away. So that's where you should be. I'll be there. Everyone's going to be there. I would say that most of the 50 plus guests who have appeared on this podcast over the last year or so will be at the Blackpool Magic Convention this weekend. They will not be doing gigs. Apart from Dynamo, he'll be doing gigs. But to be fair, it's in an arena. If you are doing gigs in an arena next Blackpool, I will accept that as a valid reason why you are not there. Personally, I absolutely love the Blackpool Magic Convention, so I thought it would be a lovely idea to do a Blackpool Magic Convention themed podcast a few days early this week, which you may have noticed, so that you can listen to this on the way to the convention in your car, on the train, maybe you're even in a plane. You can listen to this podcast on the way there to get excited about what you're about to see. Maybe you're on the drive home, maybe you've just been to the convention, maybe the weekend's over. Hopefully this will be a nice thing to listen to on the journey home as well. If we're going to do a Blackpool Magic themed podcast, we need the perfect guest for it. And of course, Derek Lever is the convention organiser. He's a controversial figure. He very kindly agreed to meet me and nothing was off limits. I asked him everything I wanted to ask him. I hope you find this interview really interesting. If you want to discuss it afterwards, go to our Facebook page. It is facebook.com/Magicians Podcast, or you can tweet us. We are at Magician Podcast. This interview was recorded in the Blackpool Magic Club's brand new headquarters. It's an incredible facility. It's not even open yet. We were very lucky to get a sneak peek of it. We being myself and Rob James, who helped a great deal with the recording of this week's episode. Okay, here he is. Sit back, relax, and enjoy an hour in the company of the organiser of the biggest magic convention in the world, Mr. Derek Lever. So we've set a new record today for the longest distance ever travelled to do an interview. Rob James and I, 3.5 hours to come and interview Derek today. I'm sat with him here now. How are you, Derek? Thanks
Great.
For doing this.
Yeah.
Really appreciate it. This is amazing. I've explained in the introduction that we're sat here in this new amazing headquarters. I'm going to find out all about that in a minute. But one of the things I know that's going to be going on right now is that magicians who listen to this are going to be driving up to the convention. What should they be looking forward to this year? What surprises? Well, maybe you can't ruin the surprises, but what things have you got in store for us that we can look forward to this year?
Well, 3 gala shows for a start.
Brilliant.
Something we started a couple of years ago, and it's very expensive to do because we bring international artists into every gala show. That does cost a lot of money. In fact, speaking of money, it might surprise you to learn that we spend over £250,000 turnover on the convention, or the festival as we call it now.
Brilliant.
So we've got Jeff McBride, who is topping the bill on the Sunday night, and Jeff, of course, needs no introduction, so we won't give him one. He's wonderful, Jeff. He'll do anything you want, literally, and he's got with him this year Larry Haas and also Eugene Berger.
Wow.
So the three of them are doing close-up. Jeff's doing stage as well. It's all looking very, very good indeed.
How can I get seats down the front, Derek? I see every year you're sat front row centre. How do you get those seats? That's what we need
You've
to know.
got to be the festival organiser.
That's a big job, big commitment to get those seats.
But you may suffer a nervous breakdown while you're trying to get the job, so I wouldn't recommend it.
Fair enough. We're in this amazing building here. You've told Rob and I, who's here with me today, the story of how this came about. Can you share that with the listeners, the story of how this new headquarters for the Blackpool Magic Club has came about?
Sure, yeah. It was... We saw it in the local paper, and we came down, viewed it, got the estate agent down, made a bid. The vendor accepted it, and we thought, that's it, we own it. And it was also up for auction. So a couple of weeks later, on the auction date, I rang the auctioneer just to check it still wasn't in the auction, and it turned out it was.
Oh.
I couldn't believe it. I thought we'd lost it. So I'd seen Homes Under the Hammer on the telly, bidding on the telephone. Never done it in my life, but I thought, okay, we'll go for it. And would you believe I got it for a bid of £72,000.
Which was even less than what you'd...
That's right, we'd bid £85,000 originally.
Brilliant. So you gazumped yourself in a good way.
I did indeed.
That's
delighted.
That's just what I do in my close-up gigs, so that's brilliant. So that's amazing. So £72,000. This place is enormous. Big downstairs area, performance area. You've got boardrooms, a nice reception, bars. What are some of the plans for this place when it opens?
Well, upstairs we're going to do the museum, which we had in the old club, but it'll be extended. And there's some very, very interesting exhibits in there. We've also got the library going in. We've got over 2,000 books which the members can take out and brush up on their moves. We've also got up there an area for close-up, specifically for close-up. We've also got my offices, and we've got Mike Shepherd's office as well. And there's various other things going to go in there once we get it sorted out. It's going to take maybe 3 or 4 months, but when it's finished, this will be a club like no other.
Amazing. Can I ask, I'm fascinated by the club. I know you've been involved with it for a long time. Just to get an idea of how popular magic is at the moment, have you got more members now than you've ever had before? Is it down?
No,
where is it at the moment?
It actually stays around 42, 43 members. 1 or 2 die. Unfortunately, we lost Tom Owen recently. He was heavily involved in the convention for many years. But it stays around that sort of figure. Quite a few are semi-pros. We have well-known pros such as Mark Raffles, but it stays around that figure, and we don't really want to make it any bigger. Although, having said that, we did start an associate membership, and for £25 people can join as an associate member, enjoy so many meetings per year, and get the benefit of the facilities in the club. So we want to keep it around that, really.
Sure. I've obviously been doing my research, and you've had an amazing career, actually, haven't you? I mean, you've done so many things.
Yeah.
You're a performer, an author, you've run a magic shop. Obviously, everybody knows about the convention, which we'll talk about in more detail. Your performing career, and I know a big part of that was with your partner, Anne, as well.
Yeah.
First of all, one of the stories in the research which I found, I'd love you to share it here, is the story about when you did the illusion with Anne and you'd painted the illusion the day before. Can you share that story just so it's archived forever here, because I think it's a great story.
Yes, that was a Temple of Benares, was the correct description of the illusion, which is like a little doll's house, but you have swords with it as well. And I used genuine cavalry swords, and I'd painted it the night before with quick drying paint, black paint. So we went on, everything seemed fine, but actually the paint had only crusted over. It wasn't properly set. So Anne goes into the top. I get a sword, I ram it through one of the slots in the roof, and I hear, "Ah!" She's acting very well tonight. Another sword goes in, "Ah!" And then this little voice says, "The flap's not coming down." Right, so I just keep pushing swords in until eventually one came out. As fast as I pushed it in, it flew out, and it's got blood on the end of it, real blood. And I realised, no, we couldn't go on with it. So I quickly pulled all the swords out, Anne popped her head through the roof and said, "Shall I take a bow?" She was black from head to toe with the paint. I said, "Get back down in the cabinet." I folded the lid up, and that was the end of the Temple of Benares.
Amazing. You're also, this is interesting because of what you do now, what everyone knows you for, but you were an agent as well for a while.
I was indeed, yeah, for quite a few years. We had offices in Piccadilly in Manchester, and we booked somewhere in the region of 50-odd nightclubs throughout the country. Manchester was the capital of clubs, really. It all started in Manchester long before London had nightclubs like ours, and we could offer one act 52 weeks a year engagement, which
Amazing.
is unbelievable. We had all sorts of acts. I used to get acts turning up on a Monday, and one rang me. I was sitting in the office until 1 or 2 in the morning because the clubs were open till 2 o'clock. And one rang me and he said, "You won't know me, my name's Checker Wheel." I said, "Yeah." "What do you do?" "Speciality act." I said, "Yeah, but what kind of speciality act?" "I tap dance on roller skates." I said,
What?
You're having me on, of course. No, I've no money, I've just landed at the station, I've nowhere to sleep, could you get me a gig tonight? Well, it's like 10:30 at night. So I rang a little social club in Bolton called Astley Bridge British Legion, and the secretary there, Len Ratcliffe, I knew well, and I said, "Len, can you fit one more act in tonight?" "Well, what does he do?" No, so I'm not going to tell you what he does. It's a surprise. Well, this place only seated probably 60, 70 people. So Checker turns up and I said, "Get ready outside, put the roller skates on." "Right, ladies and gentlemen, here he comes, Checker Wheel." And he shot down the aisle of this little club, got on the tables and tap danced and roller skates on the tables and absolutely brought the house down.
Wow.
And that's the sort of thing we used to do.
Is he still around? He should be at the convention.
Checker Wheel, no, I think he's dead now, actually. If he was alive, I'd definitely use him. Because
there you go. The listeners should be listening. There's an opportunity right there, isn't there?
Yeah.
So your performing career, did you continue performing all the time you were an agent as well? Or?
Yep, did indeed. I used to sit in the office and we used to have what we called doubling and trebling. So they'd do 3 venues in a night. Start off at 9 o'clock, go do another at 10 o'clock, and one at 1 o'clock in the morning in a late nightclub. And invariably somebody would get lost or the car would break down or whatever. They ring into me. I get in the car and I go and fill in their spots. Mm-hmm. Without doing that, it would have been chaos because the whole thing would have just fallen apart. One time we had 35 to 40 acts working every night, doubling and trebling. Nightmare.
Yeah.
Really was, but good fun.
So the magic shop.
The magic shop.
Tourist magic shop, but also I understand you used to run the Tommy Cooper joke shop on the beach, on the
That's
pleasure
right.
beach.
Yeah.
You did a deal with Tommy.
The deal with
rights.
Tommy was that we would franchise joke shops all over the country, and he signed a contract to that effect. And
So this was 1982, so just a few years before he died.
That's right. The problem was that part of the deal was he would turn up and open the shop and get all the publicity, and in the end he just wasn't well enough.
I see.
So we opened our shop in Blackpool on the promenade. It got very, very profitable. After 10 years we sold out, and another gentleman carried on who made a good job of it, and it got very well known indeed. But in the end, age told, and we got fed up doing the hours. We were open 7 days a week, too much really. Plus I was doing the convention and manufacturing props, and just too much altogether. Mm-hmm. So we sold it.
So Tourist Magic was around for a bit longer though, wasn't
Oh
it?
yeah, Tourist Magic opened in Bury in Lancashire, and we had an upstairs studio. Used to have all kinds of guys turn up there, Ken Brook and people like that. And we specialised in second-hand magic, used magic. And one of the reasons for that was that a good friend of mine called Bob West, who's still alive, God bless him, he knew a gentleman called Frank Bournemouth. Frank Bournemouth was a character in himself. he had what he called a private theatre. It was actually 3 garages knocked into one, but it was full of props. You couldn't get any seats in the end because he kept buying props. And when I went over to buy the whole thing, Bob says, have a look inside, you'd be amazed what you see. So I saw 2 light bulbs on a stand on this tiny stage. I went across to pick them up and discovered bare wires, and it was still plugged in the 240 volt socket. Had I touched it, I'd have been dead. And that's how he did the trick. You know, it was it was painted black, this wire, so it looked okay against the black background. You couldn't see it, but it was lethal.
Wow.
And
I heard a rumour you used to build things as well, didn't you?
yeah, we did indeed. Invisible Ray was a prime example. Bob Harbin was quite puzzled as to how we built an invisible ray using perspex sheets instead of glass. And to the day he died, he never found out. And every week he'd ring me and he'd say, it's so-and-so, 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 I've worked it out. And I'd say, no, Bob, it's not. No, I'll tell you. I'm an inventor. You don't need to tell me. I'll work it out. He never did
he never
to the
found
day
out.
he died.
Wow.
No.
Here's a little secret I found out about you. You were on New Faces.
I was indeed. I won a heat of New Faces,
You were a winner,
in fact.
yeah.
I was indeed, yeah.
I couldn't find the clip, though. Can you tell us a bit about that experience, what you did on it?
Yeah, basically, it was comedy magic. The panel was Arthur Askey, a lovely, lovely little man, John Robbins, who was a BBC producer, Tony Hatch, the Hatchet, as he was known, and I just forget who the other judge was, but it was a strong panel. And it's strange how things happen for you. And what happened in this instance, it was recorded on the Tuesday and came out on the Saturday. So the opening trick was, I bought a little placard from Bob Lunn, Lunar Magic, and it said on it, hello. But by pulling a thread, you can make the O travel down the card to the front, and it becomes oh hell.
Ah.
Right, so the gag was, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, nice to see you. Good evening, judges. Oh no, I've prepared a special greeting for you, judges, so you hold the hello up. Oh no, Tony Hatch is on the panel, and the O travels down and becomes oh hell. Great opening gag.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, just as I did it, somebody walked in front of the camera.
Oh.
So the producer, Les Cox, shouts down, sorry Derek, gonna have to run again. So you've got a live audience there, they've seen the gag's dead, do I do it again? I thought, okay, I'll do it again. So out I went, did it again, it got a titter this time instead of a belly laugh, and would you believe, the camera broke down. So Les Cox shouts down again, sorry Derek, I know it's all very unprofessional this, but could you run again? Camera's broken down. By now I am furious. So I went into the dressing room, slammed the door and said, forget it. It's just not worth it. I'm wasting my time here. They're amateurs. I was really, really mad. And I think being mad fired me up so much. I was determined that next time I work, I'm going to be good. Anyway, Arthur Askey came in the dressing room, old pro Arthur Askey. And he said, look, Derek, tell you what we'll do. I've had a chat to the other judges, and if you go out again and do it, we'll give you marks for professionalism, which we don't normally do. So I said, okay, and out I went again, and did the comedy bit with the gags and everything, and finished, would you believe, with the fire eating routine. But every time I put a firebrand in, I did a gag. And it worked so well. It was just so unusual, the whole thing. And I won it by a long shot. So,
wow.
Yeah, I was thrilled with that. It just shows sometimes in adversity, you can turn it around and make it work for you.
I've got to ask you, Derek, because obviously there's a show that's not New Faces that's still around. What do you think of shows like Britain's Got Talent and things like that when you see them today?
I wouldn't touch it with a barge pole.
No, really? Why?
Well, number one, I don't like the way it's run. The judges are the people who get all the publicity and what have you. The artists are tied to a contract that As an ex-agent, I would never dream of offering anybody like that contract. They literally take them over, take their life over. Yeah, you get a little bit of fame. Darcy Oak got a bit of fame out of it. But he was quite well known before that anyway, so I just wonder whether it was worth doing it. And it crucifies a lot of people. I've always said, I've been critical of acts in the past, but I've always said I will give you constructive criticism, not just criticism for the sake of it. And if you do that, the act will benefit, and hopefully a lot of acts over the years have benefited from what I've told them. But destructive, no.
So that was partly when you did Magical X Factor.
We did.
At the convention.
We got slated for that, but we've never been frightened at Blackpool Festival to experiment. And it worked reasonably well. And one act I know benefited greatly. It was a young illusionist who was grossly overweight. And I was on the panel and I actually said, you've got a great act. What you need to do is lose a few stones and you'll be even better. And he wasn't upset at the time, but the audience booed me and so on. 12 months later, the guy had lost 3 stone and his act was brilliant.
Oh, wow.
So just shows sometimes it's worth telling the truth, isn't it?
Let's talk about the convention, Derek, if that's all right.
Yeah.
What I wasn't sure about, because I read conflicting things, was exactly at what stage you got involved. How did you start getting involved with the organisation of the convention, and when was that?
25 years ago now. Tom Owen and Bill Lamb were actually running the convention. It was a one-day affair which brought in around 300 to 400 people. When I joined the club, I said, can I utilise the night before, i.e. the Saturday? And I'd found a venue down at the Pleasure Beach called the Horseshoe Show Bar. I said, what I want to do is put on a competition. So there was a lot of people saying, no, it's never going to work. They won't come the day before. It's a one-day convention. So I said, look, I've got registered a title called the British Magical Championships. I'm willing to use that to cover the competition with. So after quite a long argument, we eventually said, okay, we'll give it a try. Well, that first time was sensational because we had people like Clive Webb, Mark Raffles, all the top people actually entered the competition. And Mark Raffles was the overall Grand Prix winner. In those days, the prize money was only about £300, went up to several £1,000s after that. But it pulled everybody in. We sold out. It increased the actual number of registrants at the convention by over 200. So it was very worthwhile. And we ran that for quite a few years. And then we started the British Magical Close-Up Championships, the British Magical Children's Entertainers Championships. I think we're still one of the only conventions that do have a competition for children's entertainers. I don't know of any other. And it's very, very popular. We have 6 competitors every year. I could have 20 easily. And it's good that they are given the opportunity to show how good they are. So that was 25 years ago. After about 5 or 6 years, Tom Owen decided to retire, and Bill Lamb didn't want to carry on his own. So I got involved with one of the members who was a guy called Steve Easton, and we decided we'd do a 2-day festival. So we tried it and it worked, and we had moved by then from the Horseshoe Show Bar to the Winter Gardens. That was a tremendous gamble because we're talking, to hire the Winter Gardens, you're talking in the region of nearly £100,000.
Wow.
It's a hell of a risk. And to do that in one fell swoop and just hope it'll work was a calculated risk, but nevertheless a risk. Anyway, it worked. So after 3 years...
Don't forget, that's before the acts as well.
Oh yeah.
Like you said earlier, amazing.
Well, our current outlay is well over £140,000 for artists and over £100,000 for the venue, plus things like taxis to the airport for the artists and so on. It's frightening. It really is. And yes, we make a profit, but it ain't what it should be, really, when you consider the turnover that's going on. The next stage, I think, was that we increased the dealers. And that wasn't because I was a dealer and I was exhibiting, but the fact is, the biggest attraction at the festival are the dealers. There's no question about it. If you have 135 dealers, which we have, biggest in the world, you'll attract people. The problem is keeping the dealers happy by finding enough registrants to come in with the money and spend the money. Fortunately, the two combined worked.
There's a waiting list for dealer space, isn't there? Yeah.
Oh yeah, they come from all over the world. I think it's about 35 different countries exhibit. And it's a shame because people contact me and say, I want a dealer booth at Blackpool. Sorry, you'll have to go on the waiting list. And I feel bad about that, really, because there's a lot of new people now dealing, and good dealers at that. So it's a shame.
Do you have any things with the dealers hall? Are there things that you try and control, like the type of dealers you have in, what sort of things they sell? Obviously, some dealers sell knockoff tricks and things like that. Do you have a system in place to keep an eye on things like that?
Yes, it's a difficult area because if you think about it, we don't want to be the policeman of magic and say you've stolen that from so-and-so. He may have invented it in the first place, and it would take an awful lot of research to ensure that what everybody was selling was their invention. And of course there are wholesalers throughout the world who also sell knockoff things, and again you don't know whether he's got a license for it or not. Where we have a dealer who complains to us that another dealer is selling his item, we will get them together and discuss the matter, and usually we ask the person who's selling it to back down, take it off his booth for the convention, and the guy can sell his own product at the right price, because usually it's a lot cheaper. That's the biggest problem. The Chinese seem to have a go at everything, don't they?
Yeah.
But it's a difficult area. We don't get too much of a problem. Most people realise that there's enough money going around for everybody, so they'll just go along with the flow at the end of the day.
In terms of booking the acts and lecturers and things like that, that's a massive job. What's your process of that? Have you got your ear to the ground? Have you got people you ask? Or I know you were at Fizzle last year looking for acts and things like that. How do you book the acts?
Well, I've got two books. One is a grey book. I'm talking a big book.
Please tell me one book is for acts you would book and one book is for acts you wouldn't book. I want to see the second one.
No. One is international acts. The other one is, in fact, British acts. They're equal in quantity, in that I've booked over the years many British acts, some great British acts. The international side of it is always a problem because you've got to factor into it airfare, picking them up from the airport, get a license for them, etc, etc. Very, very difficult area. But we usually finish up in the shows 50-50. 50% British, 50% international. Because people want to see something different, and, it's all right bringing a great British act on year after year, but I think we were the first to do a complete Korean show.
Oh, I was there. That was great.
Oh, yeah.
The Friday night, wasn't it? Yeah,
that's right. And I have a network of people all over the world looking for artists for me. Domenico Dante, Joan Caesar, O.B. O'Brien, all these people, bring me if they see a good act and try and negotiate for me with it. So I do get a lot of help. But I say when I die, those two books are going in the coffin with me. I wouldn't really, I'd pass it on, obviously.
You must have some amazing stories of booking acts over the years. All the things. Can you share any? I'm sure you've maybe thought of some in advance of this interview.
Well, yeah, we used to have an audition night in Manchester in a place called the Del Soul Club. It was up about 25 flights of stairs, a very tiny floor area, polish wood, and auditions were always on a Monday night. So this particular Monday I turn up, had a 2 o'clock licence, so I turned up at 12 o'clock, looked on the dance floor is a milk churn, and I recognise it as the Houdini milk churn, i.e. it's going to be full of water. So I said to the manager, Harvey, nice guy, I said, do you know what that does? No idea, he said. 3 people brought it in and they come in a cab. What?
A cab?
They come in a cab, yeah. Right. Do you realise they're going to fill it full of water on your dance floor? Oh no, they won't splash any water. No, I'm sure they won't splash any water. So I go in the dressing room. There's a boy and a girl, about 16 years each, and there's this 82-year-old bat. I don't mean a bat, I mean an old bat. Literally, she must have been 82 if she was a day. She's got fishnet tights on, some with holes in, a leotard, and literally curlers in her hair at that stage. I said, are you going to do the Houdini milk churn out there? Yes, that's right. Where did you get it from? Well, we live in Blackpool and Mr. Murray has a magic shop and he's rented it to us. Right. Did you come in a van? No, we came in a cab. Right, okay. Well, just be careful about splashing water on the floor because the manager isn't happy about it. Right. So they introduce the act. Out they come, the boy and the girl, dancing in front of the milk churn. Suddenly they stop, they turn, and the old bat comes out the dressing room, still with curlers in her hair because she'd forgotten to take them out, and she stands between them. The lad shouts, "Hey!" He grabs one leg, the girl grabs the other leg, they lift her up and they drop her into this churn, and I mean drop. A tidal wave comes over the top of the churn, all over the floor, all over the front row of people who are now soaking wet through. They pick up the lid, they slam the lid on, they hit her on the head with the lid as it's going down, and all you hear is gurgle, 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 gurgle. They put the padlocks on, and by now I'm terrified that the poor old bat's drowned. They pull the screen in front of her, in front of the churn, and they start tap dancing again. And this goes on for about 5 minutes. Suddenly, the screen falls over, and there's the old bat coming out the milk churn, but because her tights are now full with water, she can't get her legs over the churn. One leg comes out, one leg stays in, she's soaking wet through, the curled hair in the curlers is an absolute mess. So they grab her, lift her up in the air, more water pours out of her tights all over the floor, and they drop her on the floor. And everybody shouts, "What the hell's that all about?" Because she hadn't put the lid back on the churn. So the whole thing was a nightmare. Hasn't ended yet. I said, "How are you getting home?" "Well, we were hoping that you'd give us some bookings." I said, "Well, you'd have to do 3 clubs a night with that." "Oh, we can't do that." I said, "No, I didn't think you could." "Never mind. How are you getting home?" "Oh, we've phoned for a taxi." "Right. Have you emptied the churn?" "No, we thought we'd get it down the stairs onto the pavement and then we could pour it in the grid." "Right." So the cab driver arrives. "Somebody want a cab?" 3 of them over there. "Right, and we're taking this with us." "Like hell you are." "Oh, we'll pay you extra for this churn." So he picks the base up and he goes backwards down these 25 flights of stairs. Doing well for the first 2 or 3 steps, and then he slips. The entire churn turns upside down and the water goes all over him. It was just like Keystone Cops. It's unbelievable. And the water's running down the steps like a waterfall, you know. It's fascinating. So at that point I bailed out. I said, "Good night. I'll see if I can find you one club where you can do the milk churn." Disaster.
That's absolutely brilliant.
The Magicians Podcast brought to you in association with the Magic Circle, the world's premier magical society. Are you ready to join the world's most exclusive magic club? Visit themagiccircle.co.uk to find out more.
You absolutely have to stop by Peter Nardi's Alakazam Magic stand in the Dealers Hall at Blackpool this weekend. They've got loads of incredible new releases. My personal favourite is Dave Loosely's Inflection. It is a beautiful visual transposition of 2 playing cards. The trick comes with beautiful gimmicks made by Rob Bromley. They are in limited supply, so go and check them out before they sell out. If you've not used Alakazam Magic before, here is all the information you will need.
Whether you're new to magic or a seasoned professional, Alakazam Magic are here to help. Alakazam have been supplying magic to magicians for well over 20 years. Not only do we carry all the latest and greatest magic tricks, books and DVDs, but we also manufacture one of the finest ranges of magic tricks in the world. The Alakazam name is synonymous with great customer service, educated advice and honesty. So if you're shopping for new magic, make sure you check out our website, www.alakazam.co.uk. or pay a visit to our fully stocked shop.
Gigi-O, free for 30 days. Be a pro, get Gigi-O.
Brilliant! If you're not on Gigi-O, what are you playing at? It's an incredible piece of software designed for professional and semi-professional entertainers anywhere in the world. It will save you hours in the office every single week. It generates PDF contracts and invoices. It calculates your mileage. It even tracks your payments and it updates the diary on your phone automatically. All the top professionals are using it. Read what others are saying about it and, critically, take a free 30-day trial right now at gigio.co.uk. That's Gigio, my friends, spelled gigio.co.uk. Magicians are not always the easiest to deal with, are they, when you book these conventions and
No.
you're trying to get them in? Who's been? Have there been some acts that you can, without naming names, who have been, difficult to deal with? Perhaps you can. Have you got any funny stories?
Probably Johnny Thompson and Pam were the worst offenders. They turned up. We'd sent a cab for them to the airport, and I got word that there was problems. They were talking about flying straight back home. So I went to the dressing room and I said, I believe we've got a problem. Well, we're not top of the bill. I said, does your contract say that you're top of the bill? No? Right. So why should you be top of the bill? Because in America we are always top of the bill. You're in Britain now, you're not top of the bill. Well, we're not having it. I said, fine, you want to go home? I'll ring a cab for you now, and that's it. No money, and you pay your own way home. Well, this is all wrong. I said, well, I'm sorry, that's the way it's got to be. It's up to you. Either you want to do the act or you don't. So eventually they decided they would stay. They went on. David and Dania were top of the bill. And I said, just for your own knowledge, watch the top of the bill going on after you and then tell me if you're better than them. And David and Dania killed, of course, absolutely killed. It was the first time they'd been seen over here. And they still never apologised. I've never booked them again.
You've booked some massive illusion acts. I'm just thinking back over the last 10 years. You've had Franz Harari here, Rick Thomas. What's the process you go through to book an act of that scale and cost, ultimately?
Well, the worst aspect of it, I suppose, is if they've got a manager, in inverted commas, managers are a pain in the backside because they don't understand we're running a festival. We are not running a normal show. It's not a corporate function. We can't pay fortunes, for God's sake. Be sensible with the fee. Dynamo is a great lad, and I'd love to book him, but his agent wanted £25,000 as a fee. We can't pay £25,000. We've got 3 gala shows to fill. So probably will never use him, which is a great shame, because I understand his new show that he's put out is very, very good indeed.
It's terrific. Yeah.
Why have we never booked you, by the way?
I don't know. I have no idea. Well, because I do the podcast, it'd be difficult to do that on the Winter Garden stage, wouldn't it? That would be quite tricky.
No, with your act.
I don't know. Well, we're I'll tell you what, we'll do it for 24 grand. How does that sound?
You just lost the contract.
Can I ask, Derek, what is the most you would pay for an act, all in? If it was
Not sure if I want to say that, but we have paid an act £25,000.
Wow. So can I ask, have there been some other acts that you've approached, that dream acts perhaps, that you've tried to get in that for one reason or another didn't work? Have you tried to get Copperfield at any point? I've got to ask the question.
Yes.
You've tried to get him?
Oh, yes.
Was he not interested?
He was interested to a degree, and what he said to me was that when he feels the time is right, because he's still touring in America and still very, very busy, he would do it for us. If he ever came over to do a magic convention or festival, he would choose ours. I did get that from him. And the same with Lance Burton. We made Lance an honorary life member of the club, and we went to Vegas, met him, presented him with this trophy, which he was thrilled about, and I asked him point blank, will he do Blackpool? He said, I'd love to, but I'm retiring. And literally, about 6 months later, he retired. And now he likes loafing around in his pyjamas, I'm told. I've never seen him personally, but he's perfectly happy staying retired and just doing the odd project. Rick Thomas, I think, was a steal. We did pay Rick a lot of money, but then he had a lot of people with him. Big illusion show. We want to have him back because he said next time he'll do the whole of the second half with his dove act and all the illusions.
Oh, I'd love to see that.
And I think the great theatrical moment was when he did the double levitation and she vanished in midair.
Amazing.
That was the greatest bit of theatre I have ever seen in my life. Every person in the Winter Garden stood immediately. And I've had a lot of good reactions, but boy, that was thrilling.
What have been some of your favourites, Derek? Some of the other favourite things over the years that you've seen? You've seen it all, let's be honest.
I think, well, like I say, David and Danny, I think the first time we brought them, I'd seen them at a Fizzle convention, and they killed, absolutely killed. And nice people, I got on very well with them. There's been quite a few others over the years. I'm just trying to recollect. Top of the bills.
Marco Carvo a couple of years ago.
Marco was wonderful.
We love
Marco
that.
I'm going to bring back next year, 2017. Probably the finest dove act I've ever seen in my life. And again, lovely people. What you find with top performers is most of them are really nice people. They treat you with civility. They don't try and screw you. It's the lower down acts that you get the problems from. But we've had some great acts over the years. Just trying to think of another one that, there's been many actually. Illusionist-wise, Franz Harari was a knockout. We had him come over and he went to Manchester first, and then he came to Blackpool and vanished the Blackpool Tower.
Did
literally.
he?
Yes.
I missed that. When was that?
Yeah, it went out on television. He did it for TV.
Oh, okay.
He's got a special arrangement with a camera of his own that makes things vanish that he wants to. How it actually works, I don't know.
Ah, that's interesting.
Yeah, he takes that with him and he can vanish anything.
Amazing. So what about a flip side, Derek? Obviously, the other thing that does happen from time to time is you sit in the front row with Anne and an act comes on, doesn't go down too well. Obviously, that's a tough situation, is it? Because you've booked them, said this is going to be great, pay your fee, and then for various different reasons it doesn't go too well. Is that tough to deal with when that happens?
Horrifying, really. There was an incident at the Fizzle convention that we put on when Clive Webb, who's a great friend of mine, wonderful comedy act, absolutely hilarious, and he got one of his brothers in the show, which I didn't know about, and they do a little stag show now and again, and his brother dresses in what looks like a big fat naked lady, and he came on stage and made me do a somersault or whatever it was, which was fine. We got a real slating for that, which fair dues, we booked him. Clive admitted he'd made a mistake, that he shouldn't have put that on. It's not that kind of show, particularly with some kids in the audience. Even though it was a blow-up suit, it's still offensive to some people. So yeah, I was horrified at that. And then the final act on the last night of Fizzle, I won't name them, but they're well-known children's entertainers with a big illusion show, and he turned up with the kids show, not the adult show.
Wow.
Halfway through he got the bird. So yeah, I take the can back for that. And of course the other problem with Fizzle was the food. I had a stroke of genius in that one night we sent them out to the Tower Circus. So they were taken into the Tower Ballroom first. They enjoyed a drink. They had a beautiful view of the ceiling in there. You know what it's like. It's gorgeous. And then they were taken through to the Tower Circus, and we did it in 2 stages. I'd arranged a banquet that worked like this, that we had 6 countries of the world with the girls all dressed up in the uniform of the country, and wagons with the food on. So literally they could help themselves, and you could choose which country's food you enjoyed. I thought it was a great idea. It worked well until after the first session had gone through, they'd run out of food.
Oh, ouch.
And this is one of the biggest caterers in the country. We paid them thousands of pounds. So, yeah, I took flack over that. But the Fizzle Presidium, Domenico Dante and his partners, all thought we did basically a good job. Every Fizzle I've been to has usually had problems with the banquet, and yeah, you'll get the occasional act that doesn't pull it off. It's not a fallible process, is it? If you think about it, you're dealing with an audience that consists of so many different nationalities, and what is funny to one nationality isn't necessarily funny to another. So you're treading this tightrope, particularly with comedy compares, of finding somebody that is universal, that can make everybody laugh from every country. It's very, very difficult to do, virtually impossible to do, but you've got to try it. So I think, yes, we learned from that, and we've now got the European Championships, of course, in 2017 for the second time, the only country that's done it for a second time. And we're looking to put on the close-up in the Grand Theatre. Now, if you've been in the Grand Theatre, you'll realise it's a wonderful, old, intimate theatre. Seats 1,100 people. And that is going to be perfect for close-up. So the close-up competition will take place in there. Costs a lot of money, costs a fortune to hire it. But we feel that after the Fizzle setup, where we had scaffolding inside basically a room that was part warehouse, admittedly, but along the way it was the only way to get 2,000 people to see close-up, because how do you do it? It's impossible. There isn't a venue that will seat 2,000 people that can watch close-up perfectly. It's an impossible situation. We thought we'd solved it and most people were happy, but we get our detractors, as usual. Editor of Geni, who thinks he's God. By the way, you're not. And along the way, Richard Kaufman slagged us off, and a couple of other people. But overall, we had 7 letters of complaint out of 2,400 people. I don't think that's a bad average, personally.
One of my favourite things about going to the Blackpool Magic Convention is arriving on the Friday morning, opening up the brochure and seeing your little introduction there. Always you write a little something along the lines of, and to our haters, I say, X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
You take it personally, don't you, Derek? Is that fair to say? Because you put your heart and soul into this.
That's right. I'm passionate about what I do. I'm passionate about magic. I've only ever done good for everybody in magic, as far as I'm concerned. I keep saying that Paul Daniels is banned. Excuse me, who banned him? I didn't. It's a nonsense. They make up stories just to sell magazines or whatever. Situation with Paul was very simple. He said in the newspaper, local newspaper, I hate Blackpool, it's a dump, it's dirty, it's filthy, I hate going there. Well, I'm sorry, just before a Fizzle convention, to say that is really, really silly. You know, it's bound to put some people off, particularly foreigners who haven't been. And no, it's not the greatest town, it's not the cleanest town, but then you go to any city in the world and you'll find parts of it that are bad. The fact is that the Winter Gardens has had millions of pounds spent on it recently, and it's looking now in very, very good nick indeed. So the papers rang me up and said, what do you think about Paul Daniels saying this? I said he should never have said it. Go back a few years, he played an entire season at the Opera House in Blackpool. He was very grateful to take the money then, so why does he need to slag us off? So Paul Daniels isn't banned. If he wanted to come tomorrow, I'd be perfectly happy to see him.
Have you banned people in the past?
Yeah.
You have?
Oh, yeah.
And do you feel that, have there been any situations where you kind of regret doing that, or perhaps you think you shouldn't have, or was it always...
No, I've never any regrets. I take a decision. Sometimes I might be wrong, admittedly, but I take the decision because that's what you've got to do when you're in my situation. And a lot of the people who've been banned are thieves.
Right. This is literally where you've caught people thieves, stealing in
literally.
the
Mike Shepherd from Castle Magic had a situation last year. A German guy stole 6 books by putting his newspaper down on the counter, and when he picked it up again, he took 6 books with him. Fortunately, a registrant saw what he'd done and told Mike, and we got security to get hold of the guy. And the guy wasn't even apologetic. We got the books back off him, and he's banned for life. But those are the sort of situations you've got to deal with. And it's no good pussyfooting around and accepting his apology. The man is a thief. Get rid of him. You know, it's not right to have those sort of people.
Sure. You mentioned banned for life. Let's face us, none of us are immortal. What do you want to happen, Derek, when you retire and you don't organise the convention more? Have you got thoughts of the future of the convention, where you'd like it to be?
Yeah. I'd like to see it carry on in the format that we've got, because it obviously works. And when we talk about the fact of people don't like me, people don't support me, 3,600 people come every year. If that's not supporting me, what is? So, as far as I'm concerned, what I want to see is it carry on in exactly the same way. We recently went in the Guinness Book of Records for being the largest magic festival in the world, which we're very proud of. And like I say, we're doing the European Championships for a second time, which had never happened before. We're going out really and truly on a situation where everybody else I speak to that's running a convention is having a hard time. Particularly in America, the IBM, the SAM, their numbers are down drastically. We're looking at from 1,500 people to 350, 400 people. That's a hell of a drop. Ours are going up every year. Why? Because we're giving them what they want. 135 dealers, 3 gala shows, 25 lectures. People from all over the world come, and they thoroughly enjoy it. So my legacy, hopefully, is that we've now got a great new club room, great convention. What's left to do?
We play word association. If I throw some names at you.
Yeah.
Wayne Dobson.
Love him.
Russ Stevens.
I like Russ.
Danny Hunt.
I love Danny to death.
Paul Daniels.
Yeah, I like Paul. He's a good magician.
Fran Ferrari.
Wonderful.
The Birdman from a few years ago.
Oh, yeah.
He was a hero, that guy.
Yeah.
Did you know he was going to storm it like that?
Yeah. the thing was, he's actually taking the mickey out of the audience. They thought they were taking the mickey out of him. But all this zoom, zoom, zoom bit is part of his persona. It's taking the mickey out of a magician. But people thought, oh yeah, look at that old-fashioned rubbish that is. But he stormed it.
It was brilliant. You need to book him next year as well. Put him on just before Carvo. Just before Carvo, put him on.
Incidentally, you've mentioned two names there, Wayne Dobson and Paul Daniels. One of the reasons that Paul and I don't get on, I spent 12 years on the IBM committee. And I'm the only president of the IBM that worked by going out literally every week and lecturing throughout the country. And I did that for free. I even gave them a free book if they attended the lecture, and we got 158 new members of the British Ring. No other president has done that. Okay, maybe they don't lecture. But what happened with Wayne and Paul Daniels, the Stage newspaper had a big headline one week which said, "Wayne Dobson has stolen my act." And I read this and it said, Paul Daniels' manager has contacted the Stage to complain that Wayne Dobson, appearing on the London Palladium, has stolen Paul Daniels' act. And what it amounted to was, what they were complaining about was the old coin trick that Ken Brook used to do: borrow a coin off him, borrow a coin off him, put them behind your back, exchange the coins. Is that yours? Is that yours? No, they must be mine. So I thought, this is wrong. It's anybody's gag. It never even belonged to Ken Brook. So I dug out from the files Patrick Page's card in wallet, sold by Devonports in the 1950s. There was the entire routine, and that's where Paul Daniels got it from. So I complained to the British Ring committee. I said, this is very unfair. Wayne Dobson's just starting on the road to stardom. He's been slagged off now and said that he's a thief. It's quite wrong. And I showed everybody the instructions from Pat Page. I spoke to Pat Page and Pat said, it's an old pub gag. Never belonged to anybody. So Daniels was very upset that I complained about him. And I got a call from Ali Bongo first saying, Paul's going to leave the British Ring if you don't apologise. I said, I'm not going to apologise. Any apology should come from him. He's in the wrong. Wayne has not stolen the trick. Wayne rang me in tears, thanking me for standing up for him. We've all been friends ever since. Paul Daniels was very, very off with me until eventually he rang me on the phone, and the language was unbelievable. No need for that. And I told him where the information came from. It's Pat Page's card to wallet. I read it out to him over the phone. I sent him a copy, and he said it's fictitious.
Right.
Pat Page never actually brought this out. And I got a letter off Pat Page saying yes, they're my instructions for Devonports. And it's remained at that, and he keeps saying that I tried to get him kicked out the British Ring. Well, I complained certainly to the committee. What they did about it was up to them. So, as far as I'm concerned, I've no ill feeling to Paul. I think he's a great magician. But as he did at Fizzle, Italy, he got booed off stage for comments he made. Just stay being a magician. What the hell do you need to make yourself a martyr for?
Do you think you'll ever patch it up with Paul? It would be great to see him at the convention, wouldn't it? I mean, certainly we saw his act a few months ago in a little town near us, and his act as known is as amazing as ever. It would be great to see him on the stage there, wouldn't it?
Yep, he did do it. Excuse me. Many years ago, he did actually do it for Bill Lamb and Tom Owen with Illusions as well. My feeling is this, that before I would want to see him on the stage at Blackpool, I'd like him to shake Wayne Dobson's hand, because, you know, Wayne, I'm sure, would happily settle their differences with a shake of the hand. And wouldn't it be nice that Wayne, with his illness at this moment in time, you know, wouldn't be remembered for having daggers drawn at Paul Daniels? I would love to see that happen at Blackpool, that the two of them came on stage and shook hands, and I'd be a very happy man.
Amazing. This has flown by, this hour, but people have still got about 4 hours to go in the car before they get to Blackpool, so we could just keep going, but I will end it there because that's the right thing to do. Ask you the final question, Derek, which is, what do you think is the biggest problem with magic today, and how can it be fixed?
Biggest problem with magic is there are too many wannabes. And a wannabe is a guy that thinks he's better than he ever will be. There's so many of them around. They learn 3 or 4 sleights, they go down the local pub, the mates get drunk, and they show off the sleights and they say, "You're wonderful, what a brilliant magician." He's crap. He's crap. You know, they have never ever realised that the guy, at the end of the day, you're not supposed to see how he does the sleight of hand, but they can. But because it looks so clever, they think, "Whoa, wow, he spent a lot of time putting that together." That's not what it's all about. It's a very simple word: entertainment. That is the crux of it all. That's what I've thought about and tried to promote for years and years and years. People who can go on stage or sit round a table and entertain. If you can't entertain, get out of magic.
It's going to be a great weekend. Thank you so much for meeting me, Derek. I really appreciate it.
Pleasure, nice to see you. Cheers.
Thank you very much for chatting to me, Derek. I sincerely hope you all have an amazing weekend at Blackpool. I will see you there. Thanks for listening.